They said luck built the Mirage Vault. They were wrong. It was souls. When a massive blackout hits the Las Vegas Strip, rescue workers discover the Mirage Vault Casino sealed shut from the inside. 213 gamblers, all dead faces, twisted in terror, poker chips clutched in their hands. No one knows what happened during those 13 hours of silence. But when the casino reopens months later, fully restored, under mysterious new ownership, people start coming back, and they start dying. Again. The Mirage Vault doesn't just take your money. It takes your life.
Welcome to Nightmare Archives, where stories don't end, they linger. About 70% of you who watch haven't subscribed yet. Hit that button before the next scream finds you. Like, comment, and tell us where in the world you're watching from. Your clicks feed the darkness. Now, let's open tonight's nightmare.
The Mirage Vault had slept for 10 years. Its glass towers shimmered like a mirage above the Nevada sands, reflecting nothing but silence. Until tonight, at precisely 8 p.m., the doors slid open with a hiss, and the air inside tasted of champagne, smoke, and something metallic. Reporters crowded the velvet ropes. Flashbulbs crackled. The casino, sealed since the night of the blackout that killed over 200 gamblers, was finally back. New management, new ownership. No one knew who signed the papers. No one asked. The floor glittered with endless light. Dice clattered. The roulette spun like a hypnotic eye. Money flowed. Laughter echoed. The Mirage Vault had come alive again. Among the first to enter was Evelyn Crane, a journalist who'd built her career on conspiracy and decay. Her brother had died here 10 years ago, sitting at a blackjack table that no longer exists. She had come for a story. She would leave with something else entirely. Beside her, Marcus Holt, a retired dealer, stepped onto the marble floor for the first time since he quit after the tragedy. His eyes darted across the tables. He could still see faces smiling, drunk, unaware they were minutes away from death. The grand opening unfolded like a dream until a slot machine in the far corner began to sing. A chime so sweet, so loud, it cut through the music. A man stood before it, laughing. His screen flashed. Jackpot. $7,777,777. The crowd cheered. Cameras turned. Then, the lights flickered. Blood seeped from the slot tray. Coins spilled into a red pool. The man collapsed, eyes wide, mouth frozen in an eternal scream. The machine kept spinning, printing endless winning tickets that fluttered through the air like confetti soaked in crimson. The Mirage Vault welcomed its first guest home. The Mirage Vault never closed after the man's death. Security wheeled his body away, whispering into earpieces, faces tight with practiced calm. The guests stared for a while, then turned back to their games. In Vegas, tragedy is just another distraction. Evelyn stayed behind the cordoned area, camera in hand. The blood was already gone. The slot machine gleamed again, new, polished, untouched, almost like nothing happened. Almost. At the poker tables, the night grew stranger. Marcus took a job offer that very same evening, dealing cards again, for nostalgia or maybe guilt. He shuffled the deck slowly, fingers trembling. The cards whispered against each other like dry leaves. The table filled. 5 players. Each face glowed beneath the neon haze. Then, Marcus froze. Across from him sat a man with sharp eyes and a crooked grin. He was sure he'd seen that face before on a memorial photo 10 years ago. The man had died during the blackout. Marcus blinked. The chair was empty. He rubbed his eyes, laughed it off. "Too much bourbon," he muttered. The game went on. Hours later, he was called to deal a private table. Room 213, the same number of people who died that night. Inside, the room was cold. No lights except the flickering chandelier above. 5 empty chairs waited. Then, without a word, 5 players sat down. No footsteps, no sound. They simply appeared. Marcus couldn't breathe. His skin crawled as he shuffled the cards. Their eyes were hollow, skin pale like cigarette ash. Still, they played. One of them, same man from before, raised his bet, with a grin. When he turned his cards, Marcus's hands trembled. 4 jacks, all of hearts. Every single card identical. Each one bled faint red along the edges, as if freshly cut. Marcus stumbled back, shouting for help, but when he looked again, the table was empty. The cards lay scattered, curling in smoke, the faint scent of burning velvet in the air. Security found him shaking in the hallway, mumbling the same words again and again. He dealt himself. He dealt himself. In the surveillance room, Evelyn reviewed the footage. Camera 12 showed Marcus alone in the room. No players, no sound, just him dealing cards to empty chairs. And yet, in the reflection of the chandelier, 5 pale faces watched him play. By morning, the Mirage Vault had gone silent again. The crowd was smaller, the laughter forced. No one spoke of the man who died at the slot machine, or the dealer found trembling in room 213. But whispers traveled like smoke through the vents. Some said the casino was cursed. Others said the Mirage Vault had never really closed, only paused, waiting for new players. Evelyn stayed. She wasn't leaving until she had proof. She'd begun noticing things, the way lights flickered near certain tables, how dealers' eyes glazed over mid-sentence, how every clock in the casino froze at 2:13 a.m. each night. She followed one of the maintenance men down a staff corridor late that night. He was pale, sweating, his hand gripping a flashlight. "Circuits keep tripping," he muttered. "Below the main vault, old power grid down there, ain't supposed to exist." They reached a locked metal door. Faded paint spelled a single word: Vault 13. He forced it open. The smell hit them first. Dust, mold, and something sour. Stale air exhaled from the darkness like a sigh from the grave. Evelyn turned on her recorder. "What is this place?" The man shook his head. "They told us never to come here." They descended a narrow staircase into the dark. The walls were damp, lined with broken slot machines and torn playing cards, scattered like confetti from a forgotten nightmare. In the distance, they heard dice roll. Once, twice. Then laughter faint and dry, like something old remembering joy. They entered a wide chamber. Dozens of gambling tables sat abandoned, covered in dust. Yet the chips were stacked neatly, untouched. Cards lay in perfect formation, as though the players had simply stepped away mid-hand. And then the lights flickered. The maintenance man froze. "We shouldn't be here." He turned to leave, but the stairway was gone. Just a black wall where it had been seconds before. The laughter grew louder now, circling them. Evelyn's flashlight flickered across the nearest table. The cards had changed. Fresh hands dealt themselves. Across the table, an unseen voice rasped through the dark. "Care to make it double or nothing?" The dice rolled again slowly, deliberately. Evelyn stepped back, heart pounding. The maintenance man screamed. His body jerked once, then twice, before collapsing, eyes open, mouth frozen mid-cry. A pair of dice rolled to a stop beside him. Both showed 6. When Evelyn turned, the tables were empty again. No body, no sound. Just her recorder, still running, capturing a final whisper. Once you're in the house, you never leave. Morning sunlight never truly reached inside the Mirage Vault. Even in daylight, the casino pulsed with artificial life, a golden haze masking the slow decay beneath. Evelyn sat alone in her hotel suite above the gaming floor, headphones on, replaying last night's recording. Static, whispers, and a single word she couldn't unhear: stay. Her hands trembled as she scrubbed through the tape. At the 33rd minute, she heard something new, a low chuckle, then cards shuffling, and then a voice she recognized, the maintenance man's voice. "Bet's still on," he said, but he was on Ray, dead. Or gone. No one remembered him checking in. No name in the employee log. No record of him ever existing. Evelyn's breath hitched. "What are you, Mirage Vault?" she whispered. Downstairs, the casino was alive again. A new group of guests had arrived, influencers, gamblers, thrill-seekers, and among them, a young man named Ryan Lee, known online for his gambling streams. He'd come to win big, to prove luck was real if you believed hard enough. By midnight, the tables were packed. Ryan sat at one of the blackjack tables, grinning at his camera. "Let's make history," he laughed, stacking his chips. "All in." The dealer didn't respond. She didn't blink. Her eyes reflected the overhead lights like twin mirrors. He lost the first hand, then the second, then the third. "Hit me again," he said. "Last bet." The dealer slid a card toward him face down. Ryan smirked, flipped it over, and froze. It wasn't a card. It was a photograph of him, taken from behind, at this very table, seconds ago. He looked around. The casino was silent. Every guest, frozen mid-motion dice, in midair. Roulette wheels unmoving. Only the dealer moved. She smiled faintly, whispering, "Finish your hand." Ryan shoved back his chair and bolted. But as he turned, his reflection in the mirror wall didn't follow. It stayed seated and smiled. He screamed. The sound echoed through the casino, loud enough for Evelyn to hear it 2 floors up. By the time security arrived, the table was empty. No Ryan, no live stream. Only the phone he'd been recording with, still rolling, capturing the flickering reflection of him sitting there still playing. Evelyn watched the footage later that night. At the last second, before the feed cut to static, Ryan looked straight into the camera and whispered, "Don't bet against the house." By the 5th night, the Mirage Vault was full again. The deaths, the vanishings were already being forgotten, buried beneath the noise of jackpots, laughter, and neon dazzle. Vegas has a way of swallowing horror whole, but the house remembers. Evelyn watched from the mezzanine bar, her recorder always running. Her eyes followed a woman at the roulette table, tall, graceful, dressed in silver sequins. Her name was Clara Monroe, a socialite whose face filled every gossip feed. Clara had been playing for 6 hours, and she hadn't lost once. Every spin of the wheel landed where she wanted it. Every bet doubled, tripled. The crowd adored her, showering her with applause, shouting her name. She laughed, hair catching the golden light, radiant and alive. But Evelyn saw it, the flicker. Every time Clara won, a ripple passed across the room. A light dimmed, A sound cut short, and somewhere, always somewhere, a guest collapsed. At first it looked random. A man at the bar choking on his drink. A woman at a slot machine clutching her chest. But then the pattern emerged. Each death happened the instant Clara's ball landed on red. Evelyn leaned closer to her recorder. The house trades balance for luck. The more she wins, the more the house collects. When the roulette manager stepped forward to congratulate Clara, his hand brushed hers. He froze mid-word. Blood trickled from his nose. He fell to the floor. Eyes rolled white. The crowd gasped. Clara stared down, trembling. I didn't! Her winnings towered before her like a shrine of gold. Then the wheel began to spin again, on its own. The ball rattled, whispering across numbers before stopping 13. Red. Clara screamed. Her reflection in the mirrored wall, twisted mouth opening impossibly wide, eyes hollow and dark. A dozen hands, pale and slick, reached out from her shadow and dragged her backward through the mirror's surface. The wheel slowed to a stop. All that remained was her lucky charm bracelet, spinning in place on the floor. Evelyn picked it up later, cold as ice. The engraving on its clasp had changed. Where it once read "Fortune favors the bold," it now read, "Every win must be paid in full." And in the security office, footage showed the crowd frozen not with shock, but mid-laughter. They hadn't seen Clara vanish at all. To them, she had simply stood, smiled, and walked away. The Mirage Vault had a new kind of magic now. Luck itself was currency, and the debt was always collected. The Mirage Vault had begun to hum, a low, constant vibration beneath the floor, like the casino itself had a heartbeat. No one else seemed to notice, but Evelyn did, and it was getting louder. She spent the next night in the surveillance room, a dark nest of screens showing every corner of the casino. Rows of flickering monitors filled the silence with electric breath. At 2:13 a.m., the hum stopped. Every screen blinked black, then flickered back on. But what Evelyn saw wasn't the casino as it was. It was as it used to be. Old uniforms, old decor, the same guests from 10 years ago. The same night of the blackout, they moved across the screens like ghosts caught in an endless loop, gambling, laughing, drinking. Then the lights on the feed flickered and the screaming began. The security chief, Alan Pierce, stumbled into the room half asleep, coffee in hand. "What the hell are you doing here?" he growled. Evelyn pointed at the screens. "Tell me you see that." He squinted, and for a moment his face drained of color. Then he smirked, pretending not to believe it. Old archive footage happens sometimes. Data bleed. But the date stamp in the corner of the footage read "Live feed, 2:13 a.m." The two of them watched as the power in the video flickered, plunging the casino into darkness. Every monitor turned black, except one. Camera 12. The poker room. Marcus Holt was there, the same dealer from the second night. His face pale, his hands trembling, dealing cards to invisible players. The same haunting scene Evelyn had witnessed before. Only this time, someone else stood behind him. A tall man in a black suit. No face. Just a void where features should have been. His hands rested gently on Marcus's shoulders. Evelyn felt her throat tighten. "Who is that?" Alan leaned closer, tapping the screen. "We don't have anyone on staff like that." The faceless man slowly turned toward the camera. The image warped, static tearing across the screen. Then in a perfect whisper. Through the audio feed came a voice neither of them could place. You shouldn't be watching this. Every monitor burst to static. Sparks flew from the control panel. The hum returned, louder now, deeper, rising through the walls like a living pulse. Alan pulled the plug on the main power grid. Every light died, but the screens stayed on. One by one, each feed flickered to show a different image. Alan and Evelyn standing there, watching themselves. But in the mirrored feed, behind their reflections, the faceless man stood closer, much closer. Alan spun around, gun drawn. Nothing. Evelyn whispered, "It's not showing the past anymore." She turned to him, eyes wide. "It's showing us the next blackout." And as the lights exploded into white, every monitor showed the same timestamp blinking. 2 hours, 13 minutes. Live. The next morning, no one mentioned the blackout. No one ever did. The casino lights were bright again, the slots alive, the music too loud to question anything. But the air felt heavier, like the Mirage Vault was holding its breath. Alan Pierce, the head of security, hadn't slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that man, that thing, tall, sharp, faceless. The echo of his whisper still coiled in Alan's skull. You shouldn't be watching this. He sat alone in his office, replaying the footage from last night. Every camera feed ran clean, no errors, no faceless man, no Evelyn, no blackout, just empty halls, flickering lights, and the endless hum of electricity. He poured a drink, his hands shaking. The clock on the wall read 2:13 p.m. The second hand stopped. The hum returned faint, but there, low and constant, like something breathing inside the walls. Alan stood, scanning the hallway outside. Nothing. He turned back and froze. The monitors were on again, but they weren't showing the casino floor. They were showing him. Different angles, different times. Alan at his desk. Alan walking to the bar. Alan sleeping in his room. A dozen feeds, all of him looping endlessly. Except one. In that feed, the door behind him was open, and something stood there. He spun around, gun raised, empty air. He turned back to the monitors. The door was still open on the screen. The figure stepped closer. It was tall, wearing a black suit. Its hands were bone white, and where a face should have been, only static. Alan's breath quickened. "Who the hell are you?" No answer. The thing tilted its compact, head slow, deliberate. It raised its hand and pointed directly at the camera. The speakers crackled. Then a voice low, distorted, like a whisper dragging through water said, "You work for me." Alan stumbled back, the lights flickering. He turned toward the door. Someone was standing there. It was him. Same suit, same tie, same trembling hand, but the face was gone. Just a smooth, gray void where features should be. Alan screamed. The sound warped, echoing across the room as if the air itself refused to carry it. He fired. Once, twice. The bullets hit glass. The monitors shattered, each one exploding into a shower of sparks. And in every broken screen, Alan's reflection stared back, dozens of them each missing a face. When the security team found his office, the chair was empty. The monitors repaired themselves overnight. Camera 9 now showed a man in a black suit, standing where Alan had been, still and silent. He never moved. Guests, began to whisper about the new pit boss, the quiet one who never blinked, the one who watched everyone play from just behind their shoulder. And Evelyn, watching from afar, began to realize the Mirage Vault wasn't just claiming lives, it was replacing them. The Mirage Vault had returned to full rhythm, laughter, dice, music, the illusion of luck. But under the glitter and sound, something else pulsed. Something that breathed with every shuffled card. Something that collected. Evelyn sat by the bar, sleepless and pale, staring at the reflection in her drink. Every mirror in this place felt wrong now, too deep, too alive. Sometimes, if she looked long enough, her reflection didn't look back. A man sat beside her, lighting a cigar with trembling hands. His name was Mr. Devereaux, one of the casino's high rollers. He'd won 3 nights in a row, a fortune. He laughed softly, the smoke curling around his words. House odds are nothing if you know how to beat the game. Evelyn's eyes flicked toward him. Nobody beats the house, she said. He chuckled. Watch me. He raised his glass, winked and returned to the baccarat table. It happened during his 5th hand. He won again. The dealer smiled too wide. The other players clapped, and then the temperature dropped. The lights dimmed to a soft red glow. Devereaux's laughter faltered. A tall shadow loomed behind him, black suit, pale hands. The air thickened, heavy with static. A few guests noticed, whispering. The dealer froze. Then the figure placed a cold hand on Devereaux's shoulder. He turned slowly, face draining of color. The shadow leaned close, voice soft as falling ash. Time to pay your debt. Devereaux's chips turned to dust before his eyes, his winnings crumbling into gray powder. He gasped, clutching his chest, and in the mirror behind the table, he saw himself choking, turning blue, while his body sat perfectly still, smiling. Then, nothing. His reflection walked away. His body remained lifeless, sitting upright, a grin frozen in place. Evelyn ran to the table, shouting for help. But when security arrived, the chair was empty. Only a single playing card lay face up on the green felt, the king of spades. But the face on the card was Devereaux's own. That night, the pattern spread. Every winner, no matter the game, no matter the amount, began to see him. The man in the black suit, the whisper in their ear, the cold hand pressing down on their shoulder. Guests started leaving mid-game, panicked. Some ran out into the desert, claiming they could still hear him following. Others simply vanished between camera feeds, mid-breath, mid-smile. The Mirage Vault never closed. The chips were reset. New guests arrived, and the man in the black suit remained patient, quiet, waiting. Evelyn listened to the casino's hum that night from her hotel window. It was louder now, almost rhythmic, and beneath it, she swore she could hear voices counting, betting, crying. The house didn't just win, it collected. By now, Evelyn no longer slept. Every hallway whispered, every light flickered with intent. Even the air felt sentient, watching, listening, waiting. The Mirage Vault had become a living labyrinth, reshaping itself with every passing night. Guests vanished. New ones arrived, unaware. And above them all, the new pit boss watched a tall, silent man in a black suit, always at the edge of vision, always smiling with no face at all. Evelyn spent her days digging through archives, city records, ownership deeds. Every file led to the same dead end. A shell company with no address, no founder, no trace. Until one dusty folder, misfiled in the county's forgotten basement, finally cracked the truth. The Mirage Vault hadn't been built on Las Vegas soil. It had been built over something. An abandoned gold mine, Vault 13 Mining Co., closed in 1923 after a cave-in buried nearly 300 workers alive. Rumor said the foreman refused to stop digging after striking a strange black vein in the rock, a mineral that shimmered like liquid glass and burned cold to the touch. When the mine collapsed, they said the ground screamed. Years later, the land was bought for pennies. The investors, all anonymous, all dead within months of signing. The Mirage Vault rose directly above the old tunnels, a casino built on a grave. But the foundation didn't just bury the dead, it fed on them. Evelyn descended again that night, flashlight in hand, retracing her steps to the hidden staircase she'd found before. She followed the hum through the service corridors, down to the sealed metal door marked Vault 13. This time, the door was open. The smell hit her damp, electric, ancient. The tunnel beyond pulsed with faint golden light, like the casino's heart had been dragged underground. The walls shimmered with veins of black crystal, and between them, faintly visible faces. Hundreds of them, screaming, trapped beneath the glass, their eyes moving in the dark. A slow shuffle echoed ahead. Evelyn raised her light. A figure stepped from the shadows, an old man in a dusty casino uniform, skin cracked like old parchment. His name tag read Reynolds, pit boss. He smiled faintly. "You shouldn't be here, miss." Evelyn's voice trembled. "What is this place?" He gestured around. "The vault. The real one. Where luck's been mined for 100 years. Every bet, every win, every loss, it all comes from here." "Luck?" she whispered. He nodded. "Luck is just debt with better lighting." The walls pulsed, light flashing across the trapped faces. Reynolds turned to her, eyes hollow. "The house doesn't take your money. It takes what's left when the money's gone." The ground shook. From deeper in the tunnel, the hum became a roar, a low chorus of voices chanting, moaning, whispering in unison. Evelyn stumbled backward. Reynolds smiled. "They called it a casino. But it's just a machine, miss. A machine that runs on souls." Then the lights above flickered and died. When they came back on, Reynolds was gone. Only his name tag remained, still warm to the touch. Evelyn ran, back through the tunnels, back into the neon light of the casino. But when she looked around, the building was empty. No guests, no music, no sound. Every machine spun by itself. Every table played its own hand. And from the shadows at the end of the hall, the faceless pit boss waited, holding out a deck of cards, slow and deliberate. "Your turn," he whispered. "House rules." The Mirage Vault closed its doors at dawn. No one saw it happen. No alarms, no announcements, just silence. Outside, the strip kept flashing, laughing, spinning. But inside the vault, time itself seemed to fold. No clocks moved. No sunlight touched the floor. Only a soft voice echoed through the PA system. "Welcome, esteemed guests, to the all-in event." The lights flared gold, bathing the empty casino in ghostly warmth. And one by one, people appeared. The last remaining guests, drawn from their rooms as if sleepwalking. Evelyn among them. She recognized some faces: the influencer Ryan, the gambler Clara Monroe, the dealer Marcus Holt. All of them should have been dead. Yet here they were, expressionless, hollow-eyed, standing around a single massive poker table in the center of the floor. At its head stood the pit boss, faceless, still, waiting. The air shimmered. Chairs slid back on their own. Cards dealt themselves. Evelyn whispered, "Why are we here?" The voice of the pit boss echoed without sound, not from a mouth, but from everywhere. "To finish the game." The cards turned over on their own, flashing images instead of suits. Evelyn saw visions: Ryan suffocating in his own reflection, Clara swallowed by the mirror, Marcus dealing to the dead, and herself, standing in the tunnels, holding a camera that bled light. She realized each card was a life, each bet a memory, each loss a soul. The room pulsed. The players began to change their faces, flickering between human and hollow. Their voices merged with static. Evelyn pushed back her chair. "I'm not playing this." The pit boss tilted his head. The cards froze mid-air. "Everyone plays." The walls rippled. Slot machines burst open, spilling golden dust that turned into hands, dozens, hundreds reaching from the floor. They clutched the players' legs, dragging them down into the carpet as if it were quicksand. Ryan screamed, cards slicing his skin like glass. Clara's reflection shattered, spraying shards across the floor, each piece showing her face frozen mid-scream. Evelyn backed away. The pit boss extended his hand, holding a single card, the ace of spades. Her face was printed on it. "Go on," he whispered. "Place your bet." Evelyn's hands trembled. "What happens if I win?" The voice rumbled through the room, dark and endless. "No one wins. The house always does." The lights surged, blinding white. Then, darkness. When Evelyn opened her eyes, she was back at the roulette table. The casino was full again. Laughter, lights, everything as it had been. Her camera lay beside her, untouched. No one looked at her. No one seemed to know anything had happened. She checked the time. 2:13 a.m. Her reflection in the polished wheel smiled at her. But she wasn't smiling. "Your turn," her reflection said softly. "Spin." The ball rolled on its own. Red 13. The casino erupted in applause, and in the mirrored ceiling above, hundreds of faces stared down, pale, hollow, and grinning. Each one mouthing the same words, "All in." The Mirage Vault no longer pretended to be real. The music still played, the lights still danced, but the illusion had cracked thin and flickering, like film burning in a projector. Every step Evelyn took echoed twice, once in the room, and again, deeper, like footsteps in another world walking just beneath her own. She moved through the casino floor, camera in hand, heart trembling against her ribs. The gamblers were gone. What sat at the tables now were husks, silhouettes wrapped in shadow, bodies that mimicked life. Every time she blinked, they rearranged, forming new faces from smoke. And behind every table stood a dealer, identical, expressionless, perfectly still until cards were drawn. Evelyn approached one of them, a woman in a crisp red vest, pale as marble. Her eyes didn't blink. Her mouth never moved. "Who are you?" Evelyn whispered. The dealer smiled faintly, as though the expression had been painted onto her face long ago. "The house doesn't play favorites," she said. "Only hands." She laid out 5 cards before Evelyn. They weren't cards at all. Not anymore. Each one shimmered with images. Her brother, the maintenance man, Marcus, Clara, Ryan, every soul who'd been taken. Their faces flickered, whispering, "Help me! Don't stop! Finish the game!" The dealer's voice deepened, hollow and layered. Every bet, every death feeds the dealer. Every soul makes the hand stronger. Evelyn's camera shook in her grip. "You're not real," she hissed. The dealer tilted her head. "Neither are you. Not anymore." The walls groaned, the entire casino seemed to breathe, like lungs expanding beneath the carpet. The chandeliers above twisted into spirals, glowing with that same black-gold light from the tunnels below. Evelyn stumbled back as the floor split open, revealing the same abyss she'd seen in Vault 13, pulsing with trapped faces. The dealers turned in unison, their voices merging into a single whisper. "He's coming." And then she heard it, the slow, deliberate shuffle of cards. From the grand stairs descended the pit boss, faceless and tall, holding a single deck. He began to deal not to players, but to the air. Each card hit the table with the sound of thunder. "The final hand begins," he said. The dealer plays for the house. The dealers stepped back, vanishing into the smoke as the pit boss placed the last card. It was blank. He turned it toward Evelyn. Her name burned across its surface. "You've been betting since the night you walked in," he said softly. "Now it's time to see what you've wagered." The room shook violently. Machines burst into flame. The ceiling cracked open, showing not the Vegas sky, but the mine tunnels twisting endlessly above black veins glowing gold. And from below, dozens of pale hands reached upward, clawing through the floor, clutching for her legs. Evelyn screamed, grabbing the nearest chair, swinging wildly, but each hand that touched her left a burn, a mark, like ink on skin. She staggered back toward the elevator doors, the only thing still whole. As they closed, the pit boss raised one hand and said, "No one folds at my table." The elevator dropped in silence past floors that no longer existed, past the light, into the hum. When it stopped, the doors opened to darkness. The sign above the hallway glowed faintly. Vault 13. And from the dark beyond, 100 voices whispered in perfect unison, "Welcome back, Evelyn." The elevator doors slid open with a sound like tearing metal. Darkness greeted Evelyn thick, wet, and humming. The tunnels of Vault 13 weren't quiet anymore. They murmured. Every wall quivered with whispers. Every stone seemed alive, breathing out warm air that smelled like copper and dust. Evelyn stepped forward, her flashlight cutting a weak cone through the dark. The walls weren't rock anymore. They shimmered with that same black crystal she'd seen before. Faces pulsed inside it, mouths moving, eyes rolling beneath the glassy surface. Each one whispered something different. Names, numbers, bets, losses. It wasn't a mine. It was a ledger. Every soul that had gambled in the Mirage Vault was carved into these walls, recorded like entries in a cosmic account book. The deeper she went, the louder it got, until the whispering turned into a steady chant. At the end of the tunnel, a massive steel door loomed. Vault 13 etched into it in cracked gold. But beneath those words, new ones had been scorched into the metal. The house always collects. Evelyn pushed it open. The room beyond glowed with a soft, blinding light. Dozens of old roulette tables floated mid-air, spinning slowly. Slot machines were melted into the walls, their screens showing fragments of people's lives. The moment of every bet they ever made, every choice, every regret. And at the center of it all stood a machine. A colossal wheel, half mechanical, half organic, spinning endlessly, powered by streams of golden light that flowed into it from the crystal veins in the walls. At its base lay hundreds of bodies, gamblers, dealers, even guests, all with the same frozen expression of disbelief. Evelyn stared in horror. It was a soul engine, a machine that fed on chance itself. And sitting before it was the pit boss, hands folded neatly, his faceless head turned toward her. "Every spin must have a player," he said calmly. "Every house needs a heart." Evelyn raised the camera. "What are you?" she asked, voice shaking. "The dealer, the ledger, the hunger." He stepped closer, the hum around him deepening until it vibrated through her chest. "Luck is just faith with a leash, Evelyn. They come here believing they can beat fate. But fate built the table. The machine roared. The floor trembled. Images flickered across the crystal all the nights she'd worked here, all the guests she'd seen die. Every one of them had been feeding the vault. "You've been documenting the ritual since you woed." "Arrived," the pit boss said. "You gave it eyes. You made it seen." Her stomach twisted. The camera's light blinked, red recording. She tried to turn it off, but the button wouldn't respond. "You're not just observing now," he whispered. "You're part of the hand." The machine began to spin faster. Wind tore through the chamber. The walls cracked, light spilling through like molten gold. Evelyn screamed over the noise. "Then what happens if I stop playing?" The pit boss's voice became 1,000 overlapping whispers. "You don't." He raised one pale hand, and the machine stopped. Everything froze. He reached into the wheel and pulled something out. A single gleaming poker chip made of black glass. Her name burned across it. "Every soul here has a chip. This one's yours." He placed it in her trembling hand. It was warm, alive, beating, like a heart. "You can leave if you like," he said softly. "But if you do, the vault needs a new dealer." The machine began to stir again, the light swelling, reaching for her. Evelyn stared down at the chip, then at the countless faces trapped in the walls. A thought whispered in her mind, not her own. "Maybe if I deal, I can set them free." She looked up at the faceless man. "I'll play one more hand," she said. The pit boss nodded. "Then sit, Miss Vance. The table's waiting." The roulette wheels around her burst into gold flame. Every card flipped to blank white. Every voice whispered in unison, "Final hand." There was no time left. No sound of the city above. Only the hum, that ancient pulse that beat beneath the floor, like a buried god trying to wake. Evelyn stood in the heart of Vault 13, staring at the machine that had outlived everyone who ever touched it. The soul engine. The heart of the Mirage Vault. Its massive wheel spun without motion, floating in the dark light, coiling through it like veins beneath translucent skin. Every turn of that wheel had decided a life. Every shimmer of gold had swallowed another soul. Now it waited, still, listening. She could feel the pit boss behind her not breathing, not alive, but present. His shadow fell across the floor like a wound. He didn't need to speak. She already knew what came next. One more hand. One last bet. She stepped toward the machine. Her shoes sank slightly into the soft layer of dust and ashes that coated the floor, the remnants of 1,000 players who had stood where she stood now. They had all believed they could win, that they could outsmart the house. But the house never played fair. The vault wasn't a casino. It was a contract, a living covenant between greed and damnation, and every laugh, every cheer, every winning streak had been the sound of it feeding. Evelyn reached the central table, a circular altar carved from obsidian, its edges lined with gold, so old it had gone green. The roulette wheel hovered at its center, cracked, still wet with light, and beside it lay her chip. Her name pulsed faintly across its surface, Evelyn Vance. It throbbed like a heartbeat. She picked it up, feeling its warmth spread through her palm. It wasn't heat, it was recognition. The vault knew her now. It welcomed her. Every game needs a dealer, the voice whispered behind her, not out loud, but inside her skull. Every dealer pays the price. The pit boss stepped forward, faceless and infinite, his form blurring at the edges as though he were made of memory. He placed a hand on her shoulder, heavy as stone, and for the first time, she understood. The vault had never been a machine built by men. It was something ancient that had used men to build itself a hunger, wearing architecture like a disguise, a cathedral of chance, worshipping the illusion of luck. Evelyn turned to face him. "You want me to deal," she said quietly, "to keep it going." The pit boss tilted his head, a slow, graceful movement. The house must always stand. And the souls inside it, they are the mortar. A soft chime echoes the sound of a coin spinning on glass. Evelyn closed her eyes. She saw every face again. Ryan, Clara, Marcus, the hundreds of nameless gamblers who had vanished over the decades. They were all here, still playing, still losing. No one had ever freed them. No one had even tried. Until now. She looked back at the wheel, the chip trembling between her fingers. "I'll deal," she said. The pit boss's hand dropped away. The air shifted a deep sigh of relief from the walls themselves. The machine began to stir, light spiraling upward, threads of gold weaving through the air like veins reawakening. Evelyn stepped into the circle of the table. The black crystal beneath her feet glowed faintly, resonating with her heartbeat. Her breath slowed. The room leaned in. "The dealer sits," whispered the voice. The seat appeared, carved from onyx and bone. She took it, resting her hands on the table's surface. The cards dealt themselves. Endless, swirling, flashing, but every face was the same. Every card bore her reflection. The pit boss watched in silence as the wheel began to turn again. Slow at first, then faster. Wind tore through the chamber. The machines above howled as the vault's heart resumed its rhythm. And through the rising roar, she heard them, the souls, whispering, begging. She closed her eyes, the chip still in her hand. "Let them go," she whispered. "They are the game," the voice replied. "Without them, there is nothing." Her hand trembled. "Then I'll end the game," the wheel screamed. The lights flared white-hot, bursting like supernovas. The pit boss lunged forward, but she was already moving, pressing the chip flat against the wheel. The light consumed everything. The air turned liquid, heavy, electric. The vault itself began to shake apart. "You can't destroy luck!" the voice roared. She smiled through the tears streaming down her face. "No," she whispered. "But I can unmake the house." She twisted the chip. It shattered like glass, and the world broke. The walls of the vault split open. Every trapped face inside the crystal screamed not in pain, but in release. The golden veins burst outward, streams of light shooting through the ceiling, ripping their way up through the Mirage Vault's foundations, through the casino above, through the neon skyline of Las Vegas. Every machine went dark. Every light died. The Mirage Vault collapsed inward, folding like a deck of cards burning from the inside out. In the center of the chaos, Evelyn stood arms outstretched, her body glowing with that same golden fire that had powered the vault for generations. The pit boss reached for her, his faceless form unraveling, voice breaking into static. The house must always win. Evelyn met him with a calm, broken smile. Not tonight. And then the vault imploded. A deafening crack, followed by a rising hum that fades into wind. Silence. When the sound returned, it was rain. A soft drizzle falling over an empty stretch of desert. The Mirage Vault was gone, nothing left but a crater filled with black glass that shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Rescue teams would later find cameras buried in the debris, footage corrupted, timestamps erased. But one video survived, a static-laced clip showing a woman standing in front of the roulette table. She wasn't speaking. She wasn't afraid. She simply placed a chip down, smiled, and whispered something the microphones couldn't catch. Then the tape ended. Months later, construction began again. A new casino, newer, brighter, built over the ashes of the old one. The investors called it the Vault Grand. They said the land was lucky. But at night, when the staff stayed too long, when the lights flickered, when the cards shuffled by themselves, they swore they heard a voice, gentle, calm, almost kind, whispering from the walls, "Place your bets." And in the faint reflection of every roulette wheel, a woman watched, her eyes golden, her smile soft, not haunting, just waiting. For the next hand, slow fade out, the hum returns. One last whisper, the house always wins.
You've been listening to Nightmare Archives. If your heart's still beating, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because what you just heard was only one of many. There are darker trails still waiting to be uncovered. Sleep, if you can.